The anime starts with a glimpse of the Kazemai High School Archery Club dojo's surroundings. Inside the dojo, a student named Minato was getting scolded by his friend, Ryohei. It turned out that Ryohei caught Minato practicing archery secretly, which wasn't allowed that day. Ryohei reminded Minato of their agreement to skip training that day. But Minato tried to explain that he was just grabbing something he left behind and couldn't resist practicing a little bit. Shortly after, 2 other students from the archery club, Kato and Nanao, arrived and greeted Ryohei and Minato. They reminded them that the school sports tournament was starting soon and they couldn't practice archery. Kaito even tried to sneak his bow out, but Nanao called him out for breaking the rules. Kaito reluctantly put his bow away and explained it was just a habit. Then, another student named Seiya arrived unexpectedly. Minato invited him to practice archery secretly, as all club activities were suspended during the tournament. Seiya was hesitant at first, but Minato convinced him by saying that they couldn't afford to slack off if they wanted to win the tournament. As they practiced, Seiya reminded Minato that breaking the rules could have a negative impact on their team's reputation. Minato argued that their team had already won the prefecture-level archery tournament and were going to nationals, but he didn't want their victory to be a fluke. He wanted to keep practicing to improve his skills. Seiya understood Minato's passion but warned him about being too careless. He advised Minato to control his enthusiasm and focus at the right time. Seiya knew that Minato had the potential to be great, but he needed to learn when to channel his energy appropriately. After Seiya's advice, Nanao suddenly proposed a bet to decide who would be the most valuable player in the school sports tournament. He said the winner would get fame and attention from the school girls. Later, the soccer match began, and Kaito played exceptionally well, scoring a goal before the first half ended. Meanwhile, on the volleyball court, Nanao showed off his skills and received a lot of support from his female fans. As the sun beat down on the soccer field, Seiya and Kaito's teams faced off for the second half. Seiya, a strategic genius, explained his plan to his teammates, but Minato wasn't paying attention. Instead, his mind wandered to the clouds above. He dreamed of shooting arrows through the sky and hitting the bullseye. Seiya noticed Minato's distraction and snapped him out of it, bringing him back to the present. Seiya shared his plan with Minato, making sure he understood his role for the upcoming half. As they walked off the field, one of Minato's classmates asked him about his love for archery. He replied enthusiastically, declaring it a fascinating sport. Over on the basketball court, gossip swirled about a bet made by the Kazemai High School archery team members. On the volleyball court, Nanao's team had just lost to their senior team with a score of 22. But on the soccer field, Minato shone. With a swift kick, he scored a goal and brought victory to his team. Kaito had no choice but to accept defeat. As the school tournament ended, Minato hung his head and apologized to Seiya for not placing first. But Seiya was gracious and told him not to worry because they had still done well. After all, they had beaten the 10th grade team and were the runner-ups. Later that day, the Kazemai High School archery team gathered at a cozy tavern to celebrate and make some bets. They decided to honor Ryohei, who had been named the most valuable player of the tournament. At first, Ryohei was hesitant to accept the recognition, but Nanao let slip that Ryohei had crushed it in the kendo tournament, earning the top spot. This news surprised Minato, who didn't realize the Kazemai High School kendo team was interested in recruiting Ryohei. But Ryohei quickly put that rumor to rest, saying he had no intention of leaving the archery team. Minato couldn't help but admire Ryohei's dedication to archery, even though his hand was bruised. Ryohei explained that archery was less about overpowering others and more about individual skill. It was an art that required focus, patience, and precision. After finishing their meal, Minato and his friends went to watch their archery coach, Masaki Kitagawa, practice at the dojo. They were captivated by his smooth movements as he pulled back his bowstring. Masaki noticed his students and told them they should take a break, but Kaito was eager to keep practicing. Finally, Masaki gave in and instructed them to prepare for practice. Ryohei asked Masaki for advice on how to aim better. He explained that he always took the same stance, but his shots were never on target. As the archery training began, Masaki turned to Ryohei and kindly explained that taking a particular position was not compulsory. Instead, he suggested that Ryohei should just shoot and discover what posture suited him best. The rest of the group took their places and started practicing. Masaki kept a close eye on Ryohei and helped him adjust his stance to shoot more accurately. Finally, Ryohei let go of his arrow, and it hit the target with a satisfying thud. Masaki couldn't contain his excitement and congratulated Ryohei on his excellent aim. Even Kato, who had been on the Kazemai High School archery team with Ryohei, was taken aback by this unexpected victory. He couldn't believe that Ryohei, who had never managed to hit the target before, had accomplished such a feat. Once the practice session ended, Minato and the rest of the group huddled together to review their performance. Masaki remarked that they were all passionate about archery, which Kaito didn't mind because he enjoyed it so much. Masaki then instructed them to continue practicing to prepare for the upcoming tournament. Masaki went on to explain that for the next practice, they would aim at the target while shouting. Minato chimed in, revealing that when he was a kid, he had also heard about this method of practicing. He explained that it helped them concentrate better when they shot their arrows. When Minato trained under Master Fujiwara, they used to shout while shooting, and he was always amazed by how Master Fujiwara could shoot so accurately while shouting. As the group continued to practice, they tried out the shouting method, and Minato felt thrilled by his teammates' enthusiastic yells. He couldn't help but express his love for archery to Masaki, telling him that he wanted to practice as much as possible. After the training session, the group gathered to discuss the upcoming regional tournament. Seiya informed them that the winning team would move on to the national tournament, adding a sense of urgency and excitement to their preparations. Meanwhile, Minato called up his old friend Shu Fujiwara to share his progress and reminisce about their past training sessions. They promised to meet up at the match and shoot together once again. Over at Kirisaki High School's archery team room, Shu and the rest of the team were deep in discussion about the upcoming regional tournament. But things took an unexpected turn when one of their members, Manji, expressed his unwillingness to participate. Some team members tried to change his mind and asked their master to intervene, but the master respected Manji's decision and let him be. In the locker room, two students named Nichi and Shu chatted about Manji's decision. Nichi revealed to Shu that he was an exceptional archer, much like Manji. But Shu was modest, insisting that there were many other archers with better skills than him. Nichi then explained that Shu was not necessarily the best archer, but an ideal one. Both Shu and Manji had become role models for their teammates. It was just a few days later when Minato Kazamai High School's archery team gathered at the stadium for the tournament. Nanao reassured the team that they were strong and would make it to the national tournament, but Ryohei couldn't shake off his nerves. He frantically searched his bag for his gloves, but they were nowhere to be found. Masaki saw Ryohei's distress and calmly pointed out that his gloves were already outside the bag. Ryohei felt silly for forgetting and thanked Masaki for his help. Masaki advised him to relax and treat the tournament like any other archery practice. The tournament began shortly after. The organizers introduced Mikage High School, who occupied area number 1, and Kazemai High School, who occupied area number 2. Kazemai's performance was impressive, and the audience was in awe of their skills. Many speculated that they would win the match. Once the match was over, the organizers announced that Mikage High School had scored 12 points, but Kazemai High School had won with 16 points, securing their spot in the second round. As they stepped outside the arena, Masaki noticed Minato looking unhappy. Minato complained that the match went by too quickly, even though he still wanted to shoot arrows. Masaki reminded him that they won the first round, so he would have more opportunities to shoot arrows in the next round. Meanwhile, Ryohei started to panic again when he realized that the arrows he received from the tournament committee did not belong to him. Minato asked Ryohei's height and discovered that he was the same height as Shu, a student from Kirisaki High School. Minato thought of asking Shu if he could borrow his arrows, but Ryohei was hesitant since Kirisaki was their opponent in the tournament. He didn't know if Shu would be willing to help them out. To Ryohei's surprise, Shu was happy to lend his arrows to him. However, Ryohei started to panic again when he learned that the arrows were made of black eagle feathers, which were very expensive. Shu reassured Ryohei that his arrows were durable and not easily damaged, so Ryohei had nothing to worry about. With the arrows in hand, Minato and the team prepared to head to the arena, where they ran into the Suzuhime High School team. Unexpectedly, Minato recognized one of the team members, Kaido, who was his senior in junior high school. Minato remembered Kaido because of his cool shooting posture. Meanwhile, Ryohei watched as the Kirisaki High School team prepared for their turn to shoot. One by one, the members of the team took their positions and started shooting at their targets. After they finished, a little girl named Saya was thrilled to see her brother Shu shoot so well. Ryohei explained that he borrowed Shu's arrows because his own were switched by the tournament committee. Saya then revealed that Shu was her older brother but begged Ryohei not to tell him, as Shu was shy and didn't like being watched. Kirisaki High School had battled fiercely and emerged victorious in the match, earning them the coveted spot in the regional tournament. Ryohei was elated and made his way back to his teammates. As luck would have it, one of his teammates was looking for him too. Ryohei didn't mention that Saya had been watching her brother Shu's match, instead claiming he had been chatting with a girl. Excited by their win, Ryohei invited Minato and Seiya to join him in the waiting room. But Kaito reminded them that Kaido's team was up next, and they needed to prepare quickly. They rushed to get ready and headed to the arena. One by one, the members of Suzuhime High School's archery team took their positions and aimed their arrows at the target. Seiya watched in confusion as the crowd cheered and commented on the team's performance. Minato's mind wandered back to the past when he, Seiya, and Kaido used to practice archery together. Seiya noticed Minato's daydreaming and warned him not to get too enamored with Kaido. Meanwhile, Nanao searched the internet for information on Suzuhime's archery team and discovered they were the top-ranked team in their prefecture. But strangely, he couldn't find any data on their performance over the past 2 years. When they learned that Kaido was Minato's senior in junior high school, Masaki inquired about him. Minato spoke highly of his former teammates' abilities. Soon after, the Kazamai High School archery team returned to the arena to compete against Suzuhime. Saya watched as Ryohei took aim, confident that he would emerge victorious with the help of her brother Shu's arrows. As Kaido and his teammates took their positions and began shooting arrows, Minato's nerves got the best of him. Instead of focusing on his own aim, he watched Kaido closely. This made it difficult for Minato to concentrate on hitting the target, and the same thing seemed to be happening to Kato, Nanao, and Ryohei. Masaki felt worried as he watched his teammates struggle. Realizing that something was amiss, Minato was determined to score. But despite his best efforts, he failed to hit the target. When the time ran out, the organizers announced that Kazemai High School had scored 13 points, while Suzuhime High School had won with 17 points and secured their spot in the final round. Feeling defeated, Minato and his teammates left the arena. Kaito apologized for his poor performance, and Masaki looked disappointed. He was about to question why the team hadn't performed better when it mattered most. But Masaki's disappointment was short-lived as the principal of Kazemai High School, Tomio, stepped in to defend Minato and his team. He was certain that they had given it their all and had good reasons for their defeat. Meanwhile, Minato watched the match between Suzuhime High School and Kirisaki High School and wondered what had gone wrong for his team. When the match was over, Kirisaki High School emerged victorious with 19 points, while Suzuhime High School scored 16 points. Saya was thrilled to see her brother and his team secure a place in the national tournament. But she also felt sad for the Kazemai High School team and their defeat. As Masaki returned to school, he spoke to Minato about their archery team's disappointing performance in their third match. Minato replied that he had given his all, but Masaki felt he didn't fully understand where he went wrong. So, he asked Masaki to explain his mistake. But Masaki hesitated to reveal Minato's errors, which confused him further. Without knowing his mistake, he couldn't correct it. Finally, Masaki disclosed that none of them recognized their own blunders and had thought the competition would be a breeze. This admission came as a surprise to Minato, but before he could process it, Masaki prohibited him from practicing archery for the time being. The following day, Minato found it hard to focus on his teacher's lesson as he was distracted by thoughts of Shu's shooting technique. He even attempted to mimic Shu's hand movements, but his teacher reprimanded him for not paying attention. Meanwhile, in the art classroom, Ryohei and Nanao were taking a painting class. Ryohei mentioned seeing Kato leaving the practice room during recess, but their teacher scolded them for talking and asked them to focus on their paintings. After class, the archery team convened for practice. Nanao approached Kato, who was setting up the target, and promised to keep his secret about practicing alone. However, he suggested him to be open with the rest of the team. Soon after, Masaki arrived and instructed the archery team to prepare for practice. Minato, who was not allowed to use a bow, had to practice with a slingshot instead. Masaki observed Minato's technique and pointed out his mistakes, warning him that if he couldn't correct them, he would not be allowed to participate in archery anymore. Meanwhile, the Suzuhime High School team was also practicing. When it started raining, they cleared and stored all the archery equipment in the warehouse. One team member, Kushiro, expressed his wish for an archery dojo so they wouldn't have to face such issues. However, Kaido felt optimistic about their chances of reaching the top, even without fancy facilities or a coach. It was raining at the Kazemai High School practice dojo, and Masaki called Minato back to the dojo. Minato thought he could finally use a bow, but he still had to practice with a slingshot. 3 days later, Minato was still using the slingshot while his teammates filmed themselves practicing archery. They watched the footage to find their mistakes from the previous tournament. Kaito admitted that he didn't play well, but Nanao urged Kaito to tell the truth that Minato influenced him. However, Kaito refused to do so. As the practice ended, Kaito pleaded with Nanao to not say anything that might cause trouble between him and Minato. He stressed that the unfortunate incident was not Minato's fault. However, Nanao persisted in trying to extract the truth from Kaito, leading to a heated argument on the train. The argument escalated to the point where Nanao forcefully shoved Kaito out of the train. Meanwhile, Minato was at home discussing his troubles in the archery team with his father, Enma. Enma speculated that if Minato was being treated differently, it was likely because Minato had made an error that he was unaware of. Minato was confident that he had done everything correctly, but Enma believed that he may have overlooked something important. After receiving his father's guidance, Minato rushed to meet Seiya to review footage of the tournament match. As he studied his moves in the video, a realization dawned on him. He rushed to see Masaki to share his discovery. Minato explained that his error was in his stance right before he released the arrow. Curious to know if Masaki had a specific position, Minato inquired about his friend's stance. Masaki humbly admitted that he had not yet discovered his unique position, and he was diligently practicing every day to find it. Masaki went on to explain that every archer must create their stance based on their individual skills, so copying another archer's position was not an option. The next day, Minato arrived at the training ground first, followed by Kaito and Nanao. Even though Nanao walked in the same direction as Kaito, they didn't exchange greetings. Masaki offered advice to Minato on his slingshot stance, and Kaito watched with awe as Minato practiced with newfound confidence. While Kaito and Nanao were shooting, Ryohei noticed that something was off between them. After finishing practice, Ryohei walked the same path as Kaito and Nanao and asked what was going on. Kaito brushed it off, saying everything was fine, but Nanao contradicted him. This made Kaito angry, and he grabbed Nanao by the collar of his uniform. As Nanao sat at home, his fingers furiously worked the buttons on his game controller. He couldn't shake the memory of his recent argument with his childhood friend, Kaito. It wasn't their first disagreement, but this time felt different. Nanao's heart felt heavy with hurt and confusion. Meanwhile, Kaito sat alone in his room, his eyes fixed on the glowing screen in front of him. Suddenly, he let out a bitter laugh and muttered to himself that he was a loser. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had lost something precious to him. The following day, Nanao didn't show up to practice. Ryohei, their teammate, immediately assumed that something was wrong between Nanao and Kaito. As they started shooting, Kaito struggled to focus, his mind consumed by thoughts of their fight. Ryohei noticed and offered to help him retrieve his arrows from the target. He apologized for whatever had happened between Nanao and Kaito the day before, but Kaito shook his head and asked to be left alone. As Nanao was skipping practice, his mind drifted back to his childhood memories with Kaito. When they were younger, Nanao was often the target of bullies, but Kaito was always there to stand up for him. One day, Kaito had excitedly announced that he was going to join the school's archery team. Curious, Nanao had followed Kaito to practice and had been fascinated by the sport. The next day, he had shown up with his own bow, and he and Kaito had practiced together ever since. Later that day, as Nanao was running errands with his groceries, he bumped into Minato. Confused by Nanao's absence from practice, Minato assumed that he must be sick. But Nanao quickly explained that he was just skipping practice. In a quiet corner of town, Saya approached Kaito and asked him to come to the archery practice room to talk about his issues with Nanao. She gave him the key and urged him to work out their differences. Kaito messaged Nanao, telling him to meet him there. When Nanao arrived, the two of them began shooting arrows at the target. They were both determined to win, but Nanao emerged as the victor. Despite his defeat, Kaito laughed and the tension between them finally dissipated. Minato, Ryohei, and Saya watched from afar, relieved to see their friends reconcile. A few days later, Yuna, Noah, and Saya were practicing archery for the upcoming open tournament. They were excited to compete as a team and asked the male archery team from Kazemai High School for their support. On the day of the tournament, Ryohei and the others came to cheer on their friends. Yuna asked Minato if he had ever participated in the tournament before, and he shared that he had even invited Saya and Shu from Kirisaki High School to join his team. However, Saya quickly interjected and explained that she had been tricked by Minato and was not actually invited. In the past, Minato decided to invite Saya and Shu to a practice session. But when they got there, Minato had a surprise in store for them. He had secretly registered them in an open tournament. Saya and Shu were a little confused, but Minato explained that he wanted to give them a chance to get to know each other better. And it worked. The two started chatting and getting along really well. Just as they were settling in, Yuna, Noah, and Saya arrived on the scene. The tournament organizers wasted no time in getting everyone ready to compete. But before they began, Minato took a moment to let Yuna and the others know that he and the Kazemai High School male archer team would be cheering them on. Yuna and her teammates were grateful for Minato's support and pledged to do their best for Kazemai High School. As the open tournament got underway, Minato watched in awe as each participant launched their arrows towards the target. He even tried to copy their movements, wishing he could join in on the action. But despite his love for archery, Minato admitted that he preferred training with a slingshot. He hoped that it would help him improve his skills and become a better archer. As he watched the other competitors take their turns, Minato couldn't help but imagine himself up on that field, launching arrow after arrow into the target circle. But for now, he was content to keep working on his slingshot skills, hoping that they would eventually help him reach his archery goals. Just then, the organizers called for the Kazemai High School girls archery team to take the field. Yuna, Noah, and Sayo stepped up to the line, their eyes fixed firmly on the target. They drew their bows back with steady hands, took a deep breath, and let their arrows fly. Tomio was amazed by the bravery of the girls who had decided to enter the tournament to gain experience. The crowd, as well as the other participants, were equally impressed by Yuna, Noah, and Sayo's incredible archery skills. They had watched in awe as the girls expertly drew their bows and launched their arrows towards the target, hitting bullseye after bullseye. When the tournament finally came to an end, the Kazemai High School girls archery team emerged in third place. They were beaming with pride and happiness, having given it their all and achieved a great result. Minato and the others were quick to congratulate them on their outstanding performance in every round of the competition. Shortly after the tournament, an elderly woman named Saoji approached them and greeted Minato warmly. Saoji was Yuna's aunt and had been Minato's teacher when he was a child. She congratulated Yuna and her teammates on their outstanding performance, praising them as an example for the other teams to follow. Yuna expressed her happiness at the compliment. Minato then asked Saoji if Yuna and her teammates had succeeded by breathing together. He explained that he and his teammates found it difficult to synchronize their breathing. but Seoji assured him that they had already accomplished the feat at the prefectural tournament. She went on to say that Minato and his team's shots were excellent and on par with Yuna and her team's abilities. After some time, Minato and Seoji met at a bus stop, and Minato shared his concerns about his inability to draw the bow. He explained that he tried to imitate Shu's technique, but it didn't work out well for him and his team. To this, Seoji recounted her experience with an archer who had perfect form, and Minato asked if she had taken the man as her student. Seoji responded that the man was already a skilled archer and didn't need any further instruction. With that, she bid Minato farewell. As night fell, the two Kazemai High School archery teams gathered at Masaki's house for a small celebration. After eating all the food, Masaki had a surprise for them. He told them about the upcoming summer festival at Yuta Shrine, where there would be an arrow shooting ritual. But before that, they needed to help out at the shrine. Masaki also gave Minato good news. He could return to the field for archery practice. Masaki had noticed Minato's improvement in his aim and was confident that he could handle it. Minato was thrilled to hear this and couldn't wait to shoot arrows again. The next day, Minato and his team gathered to continue practicing their movements and breathing. They watched a video of an archery team moving in perfect synchronization, and Nanao suggested that they start by creating a routine to synchronize their movements. But Saya disagreed, saying that true synchronization means more than just matching movements. Masaki wouldn't give them any hints and challenged them to find their own way. The team started practicing, trying to move as one, but they couldn't get it right. Masaki then explained about breathing and aiming and demonstrated it himself. Ryohei had just finished practicing and was feeling a bit discouraged. He couldn't help but compare his skills to those of the other performers, and he felt like he was falling behind. As he was lost in thought, Minato approached him with a question, but Ryohei's bus arrived just then, and he had to make a quick exit. Once he arrived home, Ryohei's mind went back to his friend Masaki's gloves. They were looking a little worn out, and Ryohei wanted to get him a new pair. But as he searched for gloves online, he was shocked to see how expensive they were. The following day, Ryohei made his way to a sporting goods store owned by a man named Nakazaki. He was there to buy new gloves and arrows, hoping that new equipment would give him the motivation he needed to improve his skills. When he explained this to Nakazaki, the older man cautioned him that buying new gear alone wouldn't make him better. He needed to practice properly to see real progress. Ryohei listened carefully, realizing that Nakazaki was right. He decided to focus on his practice and not just rely on new equipment. After leaving the store, Ryohei headed to Shu's house to return the arrows he had borrowed. When he arrived, he met Saya, a girl he had met before. She welcomed him inside, and Ryohei finally met Shu face to face. He apologized for only having time to return the arrows and handed them over. But to his surprise, Shu seemed confused by Ryohei's presence with Saya. Saya finally came clean and admitted that she had watched Shu's match the day before. Luckily, Shu didn't seem too upset about it. Ryohei was curious and asked why Shu didn't want Saya to watch him shoot. Shu then took Ryohei to his backyard, where he had a private archery area. It was impressive, and Ryohei was surprised that Shu had this hidden gem. Shu prepared to shoot and explained that he didn't want Saya to watch because he was worried about performing poorly. But then he surprised Ryohei by giving him one of his bows and inviting him to try archery. Ryohei remembered the breathing technique that Masaki had taught him, took his stance, drew the bow, and released the arrow. He missed the target, but Shu said it was still a great shot. Ryohei felt a little better but was still worried about his skills and his team. After they finished practicing, Shu invited Ryohei back into the house, and the two of them talked about various things. A few days after they had arranged to practice together, the archery team from Kazemai High School arrived at Kirisaki High School's dojo. As they walked in, Minato and his teammates were amazed by the luxurious and complete archery facilities. After getting ready, both teams gathered at the arena. Tomio suggested that they start with some light target practice. Suddenly, Shu surprised everyone by asking Masaki to perform the opening ceremony by shooting first. Masaki agreed and asked Minato and Kaito to help him. They quickly changed into their practice clothes and knelt down to pay their respects. After this, Masaki stood up in the arena with Minato's help. As he lowered his kyudo-gi, he focused on his target, drew the bow, and shot the arrow right into the center of the target. When practice began, Nichi met Ryohei and asked why he got along so well with Shu. Ryohei told her that he had visited Shu's house a few days before. Meanwhile, the Kirisaki High School archery team members were amazed to see Minato hit all of his targets flawlessly. Shu praised Minato, who was currently in top form. Later on, Saya showed them a recording of Minato's perfect shots. Shu looked confused and asked about the video. Minato explained that his team often recorded videos to check their positions during archery, so they could learn from their mistakes and improve their technique for the next tournament. At the same time, the archery team from Suzuhime High School was also getting ready to practice. Rei had just finished practicing, but he was in pain because of a glare in his eye. His friend Toguru suggested he wash his eye instead of complaining. One of the team members, Fuwa, wished they had walls and a roof to practice under. However, Kaido reminded them not to compare their team to others. Fuwa also mentioned his desire for a training camp, but Toguro told them that the soccer team and band club had already had one recently. Kaido reminded them that those clubs had bigger budgets, whereas the archery team had to make do with a limited one. After finishing their training, Kaido went to see his teacher to propose a training camp for the archery team. He knew a nice beach that was not too far from their inn and suggested it to his teacher, who loved fishing at the beach. His teacher agreed to Kaido's plan, and Kaido was excited to announce to his team that they would have a day for a training camp. Meanwhile, at the Kirisaki High School Archery Dojo, both teams finished their warm-up exercises. Tomio then announced his plan to hold a mock trial and asked Minato and his teammates to take it seriously. Both teams went to the arena and took their positions. The Kirisaki High School team was amazed by the compact movements of the Kazemai High School team, but Manji thought that those moves would not improve their accuracy. Kaito watched as Shu took aim and let his arrow fly. He couldn't help but marvel at the incredible precision and skill the other boy possessed. However, he quickly pushed those thoughts aside and focused on his own shooting. Kaito pulled back his bowstring and let his arrow soar through the air, followed by the rest of his teammates. As the mock trial between Kirisaki High School and Kazemai High School came to an end, Minato and his teammates gathered in a room, their hearts still pounding from the excitement of the competition. Minato suggested that they switch positions for tomorrow's practice, hoping to improve their strategy and teamwork even further. Masaki was enjoying his soak in the bathhouse when he ran into Kaido. The two struck up a conversation, but Kaido soon realized that Masaki was all about winning. Masaki proudly boasted about his impressive 211 shots on target, convinced that he was destined for greatness. But as time passed, Masaki began to feel like something was missing. He couldn't find the happiness he had hoped for, and his sense of contentment was short-lived. Despite this, Masaki told Kaido that he was currently satisfied, and that he wanted to keep teaching archery techniques and discovering new things. As Kaido emerged from the pool, he urged Masaki to share his wisdom with his students. The next day, Minato and his teammates decided to switch up their positions during practice. But they were interrupted by a heated argument between Kaido and one of his teammates, who happened to be practicing nearby. Later that night, as Minato headed back to his room to call Shu, he found himself stuck in the elevator with Kaido. They pressed the help button, but were forced to wait for what felt like an eternity, 30 long minutes in total. During their time stuck together, Kaido made some unexpected comments about Minato's relationship with Masaki, suggesting that he was too sheltered and had never experienced the pain of betrayal or setbacks in life. Minato was taken aback by Kaido's sudden comments, denying that he was a reliable teammate and suggesting that he wasn't interested in making friends. But Minato knew there was more to the story than Kaido was letting on. In a surprising turn of events, the elevator suddenly started working again. But their momentary relief was cut short when Kaido received a call from his aunt, telling him that his uncle Yuki had been hospitalized. Kaido was beside himself with worry and nearly fainted when they finally stepped out of the elevator. After explaining the situation to his teammates, Kaido rushed off to the hospital with Masaki, Fuwa, and Minato in tow. As they made their way to their destination, Kaido revealed to Yuki that his health was not in great shape, which was making it difficult for him to perform well in archery. But that wasn't the only thing on Kaido's mind. He also shared a story about the tangled past between Saoji, Yuki, Minato, and Shu, which had caused a rift between them. Despite the difficulties, Kaido was determined to overcome their shared history and emerge victorious against Minato and Shu. When they arrived at the hospital, Kaido's anxiety melted away as he saw that Yuki was doing okay. The next day, the Suzuhime High School archery team only practiced for half a day. The training camp came to an end and the Suzuhime High School and Kazemai High School teams departed from the inn. A few days passed, and it was time for Minato and his team to get ready for the national tournament. They finished the registration and were led to the inn by the organizers, where they ran into the Kirisaki High School archery team. After a brief introduction, they headed to their respective rooms to unpack. While standing on his balcony, Minato caught a glimpse of Kaido and Fuwa, who were staying in the room next to his. The next day, the national tournament began, and Minato and his team were already feeling the pressure. They huddled together in the waiting room, their nerves frayed. But Masaki, ever the optimist, tried to calm them down and boost their spirits. Soon enough, it was time for the Kazemai High School archery team to take the stage. Kaito, their first shooter, stepped up to the plate and gracefully drew his bow before letting the arrow fly towards the target. Meanwhile, Yona and her friends were in awe of Kaito's impressive performance as the first shooter. The Suzuhime High School team was also keeping an eye on the Kazemai High School team's game, but Kaito found it dull and wasn't interested in watching Kirisaki High School play either. But soon enough, it was time for the Kirisaki High School archery team to take the stage. Yuna was mesmerized by the precision and consistency of their shots, admiring their skill from the sidelines. Some students from Kirisaki High School were hoping to face Kazemai High School in the finals. After all the teams had displayed their archery prowess, the participants gathered to hear the match announcement. Minato came to a realization that sent chills down his spine. His team had landed in the dreaded group from hell, pitted against the formidable Kirisaki High School and Suzuhime High School. The odds seemed insurmountable, but Kaido remained unperturbed, brimming with unwavering confidence. Nichi, overhearing this, felt a pang of offense, perceiving Kaido's confidence as nothing short of arrogance. Meanwhile, Manji stood in awe as he witnessed the astounding progress of Suzuhime High School's team. Fuwa enlightened him, attributing their remarkable improvement to Kaido's invaluable assistance during training sessions. Yet, when confronted about this, Kaido humbly dismissed any praise, asserting that he merely fulfilled his duty before turning away and leaving them behind. As the sun set on the tournament, the participants gathered for a much-needed meal. Kaido excused himself to use the restroom, where he ran into Seiya, who was taking his time. Kaido couldn't help but ask Seiya how long he planned on taking care of Minato. Seiya was caught off guard, explaining that he didn't know Kaido very well, so he couldn't say for sure how much he knew about Minato. Unbeknownst to them, Fuwa had been listening in on their conversation. He couldn't resist butting in, only to quickly disappear and follow Kaido. Fuwa thought Kaido was satisfied with their team's progress so far, but Kaido's response was unexpected. He stressed the importance of winning, making it clear that all their hard work would be for nothing if they didn't come out on top. The following day, panic washed over Seiya as he noticed droplets of blood trickling down Minato's finger. Concerned, Seiya urgently inquired about the cause of the injury. With a troubled expression, Minato revealed that his nail had broken a few days ago due to an accidental bump. Masaki, with a scrutinizing gaze, carefully examined Minato's nail and cautioned that wearing gloves would cause pain in the wound. However, Minato remained resolute, assuring everyone that the bleeding had ceased and he would be fine. Before long, the tournament organizers summoned both the Suzuhime and Kazemai teams, signaling them to prepare for the upcoming battle in the arena. Seiya couldn't hide his worry for Minato, but his fears were quelled as Minato reassured him, vowing to give it his all regardless of the circumstances. As they entered the arena, Seiya mustered every ounce of concentration, placing his trust wholeheartedly in Minato's abilities. As Seiya released the bowstring, a wave of surprise washed over him as his arrow veered off course, missing the target entirely. The Kazemai team's game descended into chaos, with their hopes faltering. Amidst the commotion, Minato, quick to recognize the situation, took a deliberate pause, drawing his bowstring back for an extended moment. His intention was clear, to buy his teammates some much-needed time to regain composure. Fortunately, Minato's arrow found its mark, hitting the target with precision. Kato and the rest of the team immediately grasped the significance of this signal. Those watching, including Yuna and Masaki, were awestruck by the display. It was then that Masaki stepped forward, shedding light on the profound nature of archery. He explained that it encompassed more than just individual skill. It was a team sport, a symphony of rhythm and synchronization. When an archer can attune themselves to the cadence of their teammates, their breathing and movements become harmonized, resulting in success. In the final outcome, Kazemai High School emerged victorious over Suzuhime High School. Kaido and his teammates, with a mix of emotions, climbed into their car, preparing to head home. Fuwa, though still grappling with the sting of defeat, couldn't deny his happiness with their performance on the field. Tagoru, full of determination, declared that they would return to the tournament next year, armed with even greater skills. Fuwa, mindful of his impending graduation, urged Tagoru to seek vengeance for their loss in the upcoming tournament. He also acknowledged that Kaido would not cease his pursuit of victory, despite their setback today. Meanwhile, inside the room, Seiya carefully examined Minato's hand, which bore traces of blood. Masaki, deeply impressed, commended Minato and his teammates for their remarkable play. He marveled at their ability to synchronize their breathing, marvelously compacting their movements into a unified force. As the sun rose on the following day, signaling the commencement of the national tournament's final round, the spotlight fell on Kirisaki High School and Kazemai High School, the two teams vying for the coveted title. Inside the waiting room, a sense of camaraderie filled the air as the teammates engaged in casual conversations, easing their nerves before the impending battle. In a swift turn of events, the organizers summoned the teams, prompting them to prepare for the intense arena. One by one, the members of each team stepped forward, their introductions echoing throughout the arena. With focused determination, they drew their bows and aimed their arrows at the target. However, something unexpected unfolded. The members of Kirisaki High School began to lose their composure, their focus waning amidst the pressure. In that critical moment, Shu, feeling the weight of his friend's struggle, was transported back to the memories of their archery practice session. Reminiscing about the early days when he, Minato, and Saoji first honed their skills together, Shu's precise aim found its mark, granting Kirisaki High School a much-needed respite as they regained their rhythm and began to excel in the match. This display of skill did not go unnoticed by Kaido and his teammates, who watched intently. Fuwa, acknowledging Kirisaki's recovery despite their initial struggles, couldn't help but inquire about Kazemai High School's chances of triumphing over their formidable opponents. Meanwhile, Fuwa's heart pounded with anticipation as the game unfolded before him. Back in the arena, Ryohei mustered every ounce of concentration and unleashed an arrow that found its target. Nakazaki, impressed by Ryohei's ability to maintain focus despite his relative inexperience, marveled at his progress. Saya and Nanao, too, showcased their prowess by hitting the target with accuracy. As the tension mounted, Minato and Shu, the final shooters, prepared themselves for their crucial shots. In a twist of fate, both Minato and Shu managed to strike their targets, resulting in a nail-biting tie with a score of 17 each. With victory hanging in the balance, the match pressed on into a shootout. Saya, watching alongside Nakazaki and Tomio, struggled to comprehend the sudden turn of events. Sensing her confusion, Nakazaki enlightened her, explaining that this round served as an extra time, where each team member would take their shot, and the team with the highest number of hits would emerge triumphant. One by one, the archers from both teams drew their bows, their focused gazes fixed on the targets before them. However, in this crucial round, Ryohei faltered and missed the mark. Tension gripped the air as the organizers swiftly tallied the results. Finally, the announcement rang out: Kazemai High School scored 3, while Kirisaki High School scored 4, crowning them as the ultimate victors. As they made their way out, Ryohei's tears flowed, burdened by the weight of guilt over his missed shot. However, Kato swiftly enveloped Ryohei in a comforting embrace, assuring him that it was of no consequence. Joined by Masaki, Noah, Seo, and Yuna, they warmly welcomed Ryohei and praised the team's collective effort. In the days that followed, the Kazemai High School archery team gathered for practice, honing their skills together. Amidst their training, they discussed the impending workload from school that demanded their attention. The next day, Minato and the others journeyed to the temple, lending a helping hand in setting up the festival equipment and adorning the surroundings with vibrant decorations. When noon arrived, they took a well-deserved break at the temple, relishing in the enjoyment of rice balls and engaging in light-hearted conversations. Caught by curiosity, Minato's gaze fell upon a festival poster, prompting him to question why archery held a significant place in the tradition. Seiya stepped forward, offering an explanation. He revealed that the archery tradition was steeped in ceremony, believed to ward off ill fortune and negative omens. Minato, inspired by this revelation, expressed his genuine happiness, emphasizing that regardless of the reasons behind it, the opportunity to partake in archery filled him with joy. In the wake of their victory, Shu and his fellow members from Kirisaki High School made their way to the shrine, offering their gratitude for their triumph in the national tournament. As fate would have it, the archers from both teams found themselves engaged in conversation, contemplating the future of Suzuhime High School's archery team, which would soon bid farewell to two of its members, Fuwa and Kaido. Uncertain of what lies ahead for Suzuhime, they pondered the team's composition for the upcoming year. As night fell, Minato and his teammates busied themselves with preparations for the archery ceremony. Seiya informed them that they were expected to use ceremonial bows and arrows. However, with Seiya seeking permission from Masaki, they were granted the privilege of utilizing their own bows. Kaito, grasping his bow firmly, acknowledged its significance as the weapon that had propelled them to the national tournament. Minato, in unison, declared their unwavering commitment to the pursuit of archery, vowing to continue their collective journey with steadfast dedication. In a profound moment, Masaki stepped forward, emphasizing the importance of infusing each arrow shot with genuine emotion, urging them to showcase the fruits of their labor from the summer. Soon after, Yuna's voice echoed through the air, signaling the commencement of the ceremonial summer ritual. Masaki, assuming his role, intoned the sacred chant, while Minato and his teammates took their positions, clutching their arrows with reverence. As Masaki concluded the incantation, a surge of unity washed over Minato and his companions. They rose as one, synchronized in their movements. Lowering their kyudo-gi arms, they lifted their bows with unwavering determination, and with a resounding cry, they launched their arrows into the vast expanse. A torrent of memories flooded their minds, a montage of trials and triumphs, as they aimed true and released their arrows with resolute purpose. As the final notes of the ceremony resonated throughout the shrine, a wave of applause erupted from the captivated audience. Masaki and his comrades, deeply humbled, bowed in reverence before departing the sacred altar. With the conclusion of the festival, Kaito and his companions reveled in the joy of having participated in such a profound event. Seiya, brimming with gratitude, extended his heartfelt appreciation to Masaki, expressing his sincere desire for Masaki to continue leading and guiding them on their path. Moral lesson of the story is, unity and humility are the keys to success. By working together and putting aside personal ego, we can overcome challenges and achieve greatness.